Before we begin, if you're finding peace through these sessions, we'd love for you to take a moment, when you're awake, of course, to leave a review and subscribe on whatever channel you're listening on. Your support helps others discover this space and join our journey to restful sleep. Welcome to Slothful Slumber, the podcast where we transform the vast knowledge of the internet into a gentle lullaby for your mind. I'm your host, Luna Dreamwell, and I'm here to guide you on a journey to tranquility through the soothing cadence of Wikipedia articles. Each episode will delve into the most wonderfully mundane and sleep-inducing topics, helping you drift off into a realm of serene dreams. So find your comfortable space, close your eyes, and let the dull hum of information carry you into a restful slumber. This Wikipedia article is titled, Giant. In folklore, giants, from ancient Greek gigas, cognate giga, are beings of humanoid appearance, but are at times prodigious in size and strength, or bear an otherwise notable appearance. The word giant is first attested in 1297 from Robert of Gloucester's Chronicle. It is derived from the gigantes, ancient Greek gigantes, of Greek mythology. Fairy tales such as Jack the Giant Killer have formed the modern perception of giants as dim-witted and violent ogres, sometimes said to eat humans, while other giants tend to eat livestock. In more recent portrayals, like those of Jonathan Swift and Roald Dahl, some giants are both intelligent and friendly. Literary and cultural analysis. Giants appear many times in folklore and myths, representing the human body enlarged to the point of being monstrous. Giants evoke terror and remind humans of their body's frailty and mortality. They are often portrayed as monsters and antagonists, but there are exceptions. Some giants intermingle with humans in a friendly way and can even be part of human families, with their offspring being portrayed as regular humans, where they are often referred to as half-giants. Folklorists and historians examine the role giants are assigned in regional geomythologies. For example, Fionn mac Cumhail is said to have built the Giant's Causeway on the island of Ireland. As noted by a 1965 examination in an American Studies journal, it is generally admitted today that Paul Bunyan was a synthetic figure conceived by advertising men rather than the spontaneous product of the folk mind. Yet he has been adopted by the American people with enthusiasm. Paul and his blue ox babe are supposed to have altered the appearance of the American continent. The animal's hoof prints became the lake beds of the Northwest, and from its drinking trough spilled the Mississippi River. Fossilized remains of ancient mammals and reptiles common to the Sivalak hills of India may have influenced aspects of the Mahabharata that tell of battles in which hundreds of mighty and sometimes gigantic heroes, horses, and war elephants are said to have died. Archaeology and Paleontology. Claudine Cohen, in her 2002 book, The Fate of the Mammoth, argued that the history of human interaction with fossil bones of prehistoric megafauna was heavily influenced by giant lore. Per Cohen, the proto-scientific study of giants appears in several phases of human history. Herodotus reported that the remains of Orestes were found in Tegea. Pliny described a giant's skeleton found in Crete after an earthquake, and seemed to refer to evolution as the process by which giants become human size over time. And St. Augustine mentions what is believed to have been the fossilized molar of an ancient Elephantidae in his city of God, in a passage reflecting on the nature and meaning of the Noahian deluge. The academic consideration of giants continued through the Middle Ages, Renaissance, and even the early modern period. Boccaccio devoted a passage of his genealogies of the pagan gods to purported archaeological discoveries in Sicily that he thought might be evidence of the historicity of the Odyssey's Polyphemus. Rabelais created a wholly fabricated giantology for his 16th century Gargantua and Pantagruel. Massive bones found in 1613 in France were initially assigned to Teutobochus, but the examinations of them by various physicians and their publication of diverging conclusions about the bones kicked off a pamphlet war between anatomists and surgeons of the day. The discovery of the so-called Claverack giant in colonial New York triggered giantological investigations by two important early American intellectuals, Cotton Mather and Edward Taylor. Religion and mythology. Abrahamic. Genesis tells of the Nephilim before and after Noah's flood. The word Nephilim is loosely translated as giants in some translations of the Hebrew Bible, but left untranslated in others. According to Genesis 7:23, the Nephilim were destroyed in the flood, but Nephilim are reported after the flood, including the Anakim, the Amorites, the Rephates, also known as the Amites. The Book of Numbers includes the discouraging report by the spies sent by Moses into Canaan. We can't attack those people. They are stronger than we are. All the people we saw there are of great size. We saw the Nephilim there. They seemed like grasshoppers in our own eyes, and we looked the same to them. The Book of Joshua, describing the actual conquest of Canaan in a later generation, makes reference to such people living there in Joshua 14:12-15 and Joshua 15:13-14. The Bible also tells of Gog and Magog, who later entered European folklore, and of the famous battle between David and the Philistine Goliath. While Goliath is often portrayed as a giant in retellings of the biblical narrative, he appears to be significantly smaller than other giants, biblical or otherwise. The Masoretic text version of the Book of Samuel gives his height as 6 cubits and 1 span, possibly 313 to 372 centimeters, while the Septuagint, the 1st century Jewish historian Flavius Josephus, and the 2nd to 1st centuries BCE Dead Sea Scrolls give Goliath's height as 4 cubits and 1 span, possibly 216 to 258 centimeters. For comparison, the Anakites are described as making the Israelites seem like grasshoppers. Josephus also described the Amorites as giants in his Antiquities of the Jews, circa 93 CE, indicating that some sort of fossils may have been on display at that time, for which reason they removed their camp to Hebron, and when they had taken it, they slew all the inhabitants. There were till then left the race of giants, who had bodies so large and countenances so entirely different from other men that they were surprising to the sight and terrible to the hearing. The bones of these men are still shown to this very day, unlike to any credible relations of other men. The Book of Enoch describes giants as the offspring of watchers and women in 7:2. Armenian. Haik was known as the founder of the Armenian state. Haik was part of a race of giants who helped construct the Tower of Babel. Ancient historian Movses Khorenatsi wrote, Haik was handsome and personable, with curly hair, sparkling eyes, and strong arms. Among the giants, he was the bravest and most famous, opponent of all who raised their hand to become absolute ruler over the giants and heroes. Mount Nemrut is known to have received its name from an Armenian tradition in which Nimrod was killed by an arrow shot by Hake during a massive battle between two rival armies of giants to the southeast of Lake Van. Aztec mythology features the Quinametsin, a race of giant men created in one of the previous solar eras. They are credited with the construction of Teotihuacan. Basque giants are rough but generally righteous characters of formidable strength living in the hills of the Basque country. Giants stand for the Basque people reluctant to convert to Christianity, who decide to stick to the old lifestyle and customs in the forest. Sometimes they hold the secret of ancient techniques and wisdom unknown to the Christians, like in the legend of San Martin Chiqui, while their most outstanding feature is their strength. It follows that in many legends all over the Basque territory, the giants are held accountable for the creation of many stone formations, hills, and ages-old megalithic structures, with similar explanations provided in different spots. However, giants show different variants and forms. They are most frequently referred to as Gentilak and Myrawak, while as individuals they can be represented as Basajaun, the Lord of the Forests, Sanson, variation of the biblical Samson, Aralen, based on the Frankish army General Roland, who fell dead at the Battle of Roncesvalles Pass, or even Tartalo, a one-eyed giant akin to the Greek Cyclops Polyphemus. Bulgarian. In Bulgarian mythology, giants called Ispolini inhabited the earth before modern humans. They lived in the mountains, fed on raw meat, and often fought against dragons. Ispolini were afraid of blackberries, which posed a danger of making the giants trip and die, so they offered sacrifices to that plant. Chilean. There are tales of giants in the northern Chilean port town of Caldera, telling of giants who play with ships, moving them from one port to another. Tales of the same area also tell of giants who are able to crush humans with their feet, and when laying down to sleep, being so long as to reach from the mountains to the sea. In some stories, the giants are black humanoids or black bulls. In southern Chile, there are stories of giants said to belong to certain volcanoes, such as Calbuco and Osorno. The mythical city of Tololopampa in northern Chile is said to be guarded by a giant, known by various names including Pata Larga, Gigante Minero, and Minero Gigante. The giant enters the mountains to obtain riches for the princess of Tololopampa. If a person manages to watch the giant while he works, folklore says the person will be blessed with good luck for the rest of their life. Greek. In Greek mythology, the Gigantes were, according to the poet Hesiod, the children of Uranus and Gaia, spirits of the sky and the earth, where some depictions had them with snake-like legs. They were involved in a conflict with the Olympian gods, called the Gigantomachy, when Gaia had them attack Mount Olympus. This battle was eventually settled when the hero Heracles decided to help the Olympians. The Greeks believed some of them, like Enceladus, to lie buried from that time under the earth, and that their tormented quivers resulted in earthquakes and volcanic eruptions. Herodotus in Book 1, Chapter 68, describes how the Spartans uncovered in Tegea the body of Orestes, which was 7 cubits long, approximately 3.73 meters, or about 12 feet 3 inches to 12 feet 2 inches. In his book, The Comparison of Romulus with Theseus, Plutarch describes how the Athenians uncovered the body of Theseus, which was of more than ordinary size. The kneecaps of Ajax were exactly the size of a discus for the boys' pentathlon, wrote Pausanias. A boy's discus was about 12 centimeters, 4.7 inches, in diameter, while a normal adult patella is around 5 centimeters, 2 inches, suggesting Ajax may have been nearly 14 feet, over 4 meters tall. The Cyclopes are also compared to giants due to their huge size, e.g. Polyphemus, son of Poseidon, and Theusa, and nemesis of Odysseus in Homer's The Odyssey. The elder Cyclopes were the children of Gaia and Uranus, and later made Zeus's master thunderbolt, Poseidon's trident, and Hades's helm of darkness during the Titanomachy. The Hecatonchires are giants that have 100 arms and 50 heads, who are also the children of Gaia and Uranus. Other known giant races in Greek mythology include the 6-armed Gigantes, the northern Hyperboreans, and the cannibalistic Laestrygonians. Hindu. There are accounts stating humans grew to the size of giants during the Satya Yuga, the first of the 4 cyclical ages, yugas, in the Hindu reckoning of time. Jain. According to Jainism, there was a time when giants walked upon this earth. Jain cosmology divides the worldly cycle of time into 2 parts or half-cycles: Avasarpani, age of descending purity, and ascending, Utsarpani. Norse. In Norse mythology, the Jötnar, cognate with Old English Eotenas and English Etin, are often opposed to the gods. While often translated as giants, most are described as being roughly human-sized. Some are portrayed as huge, such as some frost giants, Hrimthursar, fire giants, Eldjötnar, and mountain giants, Bergersar. The Jötnar are the origin of most of various monsters in Norse mythology, e.g. the Fenrisulfur, and in the eventual battle of Ragnarok, the giants will storm Asgard and fight the gods until the world is destroyed. Even so, the gods themselves were related to the Jötnar by many marriages and descent. There are also Jötnar such as Aegir, who have good relationships with the gods and bear little difference in status to them. Odin, often regarded as the chief god, is the great-grandson of the Jötun Ymir. Norse mythology also holds that the entire world of men was created from the flesh of Ymir, a giant of cosmic proportions whose name is considered by some scholars to share a root with Yama of Indo-Iranian mythology. Trolls are beings that are sometimes very large. The name troll is applied to Jötnar. An old Icelandic legend says that 2 night-prowling giants, a man and a woman, were traversing the fjord near Drangey Island with their cow when they were surprised by the bright rays of daybreak. As a result of exposure to daylight, all 3 were turned into stone. Drangey represents the cow and curling. Supposedly the female giant, the name means old hag, is to the south of it. Karl, the male giant, was to the north of the island, but he disappeared long ago. A Bergrisi, the traditional protector of southwestern Iceland, appears as a supporter on the coat of arms of Iceland. Paiute. According to Northern Paiute oral history, the Saiteka, or Sai, are a legendary tribe of red-haired cannibalistic giants, the remains of which were allegedly found in 1911 by guano miners in Nevada's Lovelock Cave. Furthermore, the Paiute creation story tells of beautiful giants who once lived between the Sierra Nevadas and the Rocky Mountains. After giving birth to a disfigured child, the giants treated the child so poorly that the Great Spirit responded by making the land hot and desolate and allowing enemies to conquer the giants. Only 2 giants survived, Paiute and his wife, both of whose skin became brown from eternally living in the hot desert. Roman. Several Jupiter giant columns have been found in Germania Superior. These were crowned with a statue of Jupiter, typically on horseback, defeating or trampling down a giant, often depicted as a snake. They are restricted to the area of southwestern Germany, western Switzerland, French Jura, and Alsace. Other European. In folklore from all over Europe, giants were believed to have built the remains of previous civilizations. The Danish historian Saxo Grammaticus thought giants had a hand in the creation of megalithic monuments. Similarly, the Old English poem The Seafarer speaks of the high stone walls that were the work of giants. Natural geologic features, such as the massive basalt columns of the Giant's Causeway on the coast of Northern Ireland, were attributed to construction by giants. In the Netherlands, giants are often associated with creating or forming the landscape. For instance, 2 giants are said to have dug a channel until they reached the village of Akram, where they had an argument and each went his own way, thus splitting the channel into 2 separate waterways. Others threw up hills or became hills themselves when they died on the spot. In several legends, giants were evil beings that threatened, robbed, and killed travelers or locals, such as Ellert and Bramert in the province of Drenthe. Medieval chivalry romances, such as the Spanish Amadís de Gaula, feature giants as antagonists, or rarely as allies. This is parodied famously in Cervantes' Don Quixote, when the title character attacks a windmill, believing it to be a giant. This is the source of the phrase, tilting at windmills. Tales of combat with giants were a common feature in the folklore of the British Isles. Celtic giants also figure in Breton and Arthurian romances. In Kinloch Rannoch, a local myth has a local hill resembling a giant named the Sleeping Giant. Folklore says the giant will awaken only if a specific musical instrument is played near the hill. Giants are also prominent in Welsh folklore. Many giants in English folklore were noted for their stupidity. A giant who had quarreled with the mayor of Shrewsbury went to bury the city with dirt. However, he met a shoemaker carrying shoes to repair, and the shoemaker convinced the giant that he had worn out all the shoes coming from Shrewsbury, and so it was too far to travel. Other English stories told of how giants threw stones at each other, which was used to explain many great stones on the landscape. Giants figure in folklore and fairy tales, such as Jack the Giant Killer, the giant who had no heart in his body, Nix Not Nothing, Robin Hood and the Prince of Aragon, Young Ronald, and Paul Bunyan. Ogres are humanoid creatures, sometimes of gigantic stature, that occur in various sorts of European folklore. Rubezahl is a kind giant from German folklore who lived in the giant mountains, along with the Bergmönch, a giant mountain spirit. Antero Vipunen is a giant shaman that appears in the Kalevala, meeting the epic hero Wainamoinen to teach him creation spells.